Situated on one of the riskiest migratory routes in the world, the Darien Gap is a formidable barrier. More than 60 miles of lush rainforest, high mountains, and large marshes round the isolated, unpaved border crossing between Colombia and Panama. For a long time, the jungle has drawn ardent adventure seekers. The Pan American Highway, which spans from Alaska to Argentina, has a part missing that is approximately 60 miles long. This section of the highway is known as the Gap on the Darien Isthmus of Panama. There isn't another overland route that links South and Central America. It has developed into a major hub for migrants traveling to the U.S. in search of employment and safety during the last few years. So, why aren't the migrants using other means of transport like by sea or air? Well, you'll find the answer to this question very soon. On this long voyage north, however, migrants encounter numerous difficulties, including hazardous terrain, disease exposure, and brutality from criminal organizations. The impact that migration has on indigenous populations, whose territories they frequently cross, increases along with the number of migrants. Record numbers of people are migrating from their native nations due to political unrest, economic insecurity, violence, and climate change. Concurrently, numerous travel routes throughout Latin America have reopened with the removal of COVID-19 border restrictions. The majority of migrants eventually intend to reach the southern border of the United States in the hopes that the Joe Biden administration will offer them asylum. However, many traveling from the Caribbean and South America must first pass through the 60-mile-wide Darien Gap, which is the only diversion in the Pan American Highway, which runs unbroken from Alaska to Argentina's southernmost point. Parts of this jungle have witnessed a humanitarian crisis in recent times. En route to the U.S. border, countless numbers of migrants from all over the world, including Afghanistan and parts of Africa, cross the treacherous terrain. The Darien Gap was passed by a record number of over 520,000 migrants in 2023, the Panamanian government reports. This figure is more than twice as high as the previous year, and far higher than the few hundred individuals who crossed it each year a decade earlier. Children made up about 1/5 of those who crossed over. Most of the migrants were from Venezuela. Some came from Ecuador, Haiti, and even farther afield, Angola, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Should I tell you something alarming? Well, experts predict that as socioeconomic conditions worsen throughout the region, the number of people risking their lives to cross the gap will rise. For example, tens of thousands of Haitians fled to South America after a horrific earthquake shook their homeland in 2010, where they have encountered prejudice and financial hardships. Walking across the gap is feasible, although the terrain is extremely challenging and frequently miscalculated. One of the world's rainiest and most dangerous locations, it is a lawless, unpoliced area home to numerous drug smugglers and occasionally political insurgents. Many migrants are known to have died on this journey, however records are not kept. Scary it is, right? Anyhow, moving forward, Nicoclí, a seaside hamlet in Colombia on the Gulf of Urabá, is the first destination on the route north. The majority of migrants who are already in the area arrive there by foot or by using public transportation. The trip is more difficult for those arriving from Africa and the Caribbean, though. The Mexican government has increased the number of visa requirements, making it more challenging for individuals to travel directly to the border between the United States and Mexico in response to growing pressure from the U.S. to reduce illegal immigration. Rather than going directly to Nicoclí, they now frequently travel into Ecuador or Brazil, where visa requirements are less stringent. Some African migrants are flying to Nicaragua and then continuing north, avoiding the Darien Gap entirely. In hotels or improvised beach camps, migrants wait to board an hour-long ferry to Akandi, a hamlet approximately 5 kilometers from the Panamanian border. The majority own little, and what little money they do have is frequently spent on food and camping supplies from street sellers. Not only this, a few people even had to wait weeks to board the ferry. The backup in Nicoclí will be handled by the Ombudsman's Office of Colombia, a government organization in charge of monitoring the defense of civil and human rights. After arriving in Akandi, migrants will embark on a perilous 10-day or longer walk across the Darien Gap jungle. The hiking trail is difficult even for someone in high physical condition because it climbs quickly over a mountain. Most migrants lack camping and trekking gear and are in poor to middling physical condition. Many young males volunteer to act as guides and give protection for a charge in Yaviza, Panama, and Capurganá, Colombia. It is difficult to tell if people offering these services are knowledgeable, reliable people, or just thieves hunting for victims. Moreover, due to smuggling groups, migrants frequently experience significantly less protection in exchange for their money. Venezuelan immigrant Kisbel Garcia claimed to have paid a guide more than $4,000 in exchange for the guide's assurance that she, her 4 kids, and her mother-in-law would be guided safely through the jungle. 2 days into the hike, Garcia's guide abandoned them in lieu of providing tourist-style protection. The family, according to her, spent 6 days wandering through the mountains, passing bodies as they ran out of food, and depending on pieces of blue cloth that migrants fastened to trees to help indicate their route for those who came after them and made it out alive. "We migrants have to fight against all the risks without any kind of help," she said. "The Darien is hell. Smugglers and criminal organizations, such as the largest drug cartel in Colombia, the Gulf Clan, and members of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC, are present along the route. These organizations frequently extort and assault migrants sexually. You might be thinking, what worse than this would be possible? Then, let me add this, that women who are pregnant or carrying children also make attempts to migrate. Between 2013 and 2021, 3 migrant women gave birth in the Darien without access to medical supplies or assistance. According to UNICEF estimates, less than 5-year-olds made about half of the children who crossed in the first half of 2023. The mountainous terrain can experience landslides when there is frequent rainfall. High humidity and temperatures as high as 95 degrees, now 35 degrees, can exacerbate hunger and thirst that doesn't go away. The difficulties faced by migrants are exacerbated by the presence of venomous snakes and crocodiles in the area. The environment poses a significant challenge as well. One of the planet's rainiest locations is the Darien Gap. Rainfall causes flash floods, which in the steep terrain can cause landslides that could transport sleepers to their deaths. There are several rivers to cross that lack boats or bridges. There are no services of any type, thus supplies for a multi-day trip, including food, a tent, and water purification materials must be brought. Migrants' bodies are frequently discovered. They may be dead, too tired to move on, or suffering from conditions like blisters that need medical attention. No one can be evacuated who is injured, sick, or just tired, and there is no medical assistance available. Typically, a fractured leg is fatal. Robberies and rapes of migrants are common. There's no cell phone signal, no police presence. The journey was really quite hard, especially when the rain came. It was just mud, rivers, and going up mountainsides non-stop, one Haitian migrant told Al Jazeera. There were pregnant women. We had to walk in rivers. Children were fainting, and even men at times who couldn't continue. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, of the United Nations, reports that at least 137 migrants, including at least 13 minors, have perished or disappeared. The Darien presents security issues in addition to its lack of infrastructure because criminal organizations dominate some of the migratory routes in particular. The real number of migrants who have died and disappeared in the jungle is much, much higher, the IOM said. The perilous journey through the Darien Gap presents a multitude of challenges, from treacherous terrain to the threat of criminal groups. As long as this treacherous route persists as a gateway for migration, the desperate struggle of those traversing the Darien Gap will continue, a stark reminder of the harsh realities faced by migrants seeking safety and opportunity. Would you ever prefer to go through the Darien Gap? If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future content.